Hi everyone, Jake here for FMSCOUT. Welcome to today's video where we'll be showing you guys how to make money in FM23 and save money as well. None of these tips are going to make you 30, 40 million instantly, but what they will do is accumulate over the course of a season to maybe add up to one extra transfer a year, maybe two depending on what kind of division you're playing in. I'll hit you with 5 or 6 quick tips. They're all very simple to do. It will help to increase your bank balance and hopefully improve the general success of your save. If you find it useful, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe for more as we push for 150,000 subscribers, and drop your biggest money making tip in the comments down below. So, I've started up a save here with Brighton, we've taken over as manager, and tip number 1 is an easy one that I suggest everyone do at the start of your save. Just to let you know, most of these tips will be aimed at a new player or a beginner player, however there's definitely a few that will be useful for you guys who are experienced players that I reckon most of you aren't doing. But anyway, tip number 1 is to come to the transfer section and head over to transfer clauses. In there you'll see a bunch of transfer clauses relating to each player. For example, Marc Cucurella, Brighton will get £2.5 million if Chelsea win the Champions League. Okay, that's great, but what does that mean for us right now? Well, any of these with the pound sign on or the dollar sign, whatever you have it set to, you can either buy the clause to save some money later down the line potentially, or the ones that I prefer are the ones where there's transfer clauses at players no longer at your club that you can sell for instant money. So Beadle, Caicedo, you can see they're all Brighton players still. However, down here somewhere, there you go, is Ben White. Now he is of course now an Arsenal player, and we can instantly get some money off of Arsenal if we want to for Ben White. Now the clause here is that 10% of the profit made on his next transfer will go to Brighton. So 10% of any transfer value over 50 million will go to us. Now, I don't think Ben White will move from Arsenal for more money onto a bigger club. I think Arsenal is as high as he will go in terms of a club, but you guys can do whatever you want. You have to think about it, each individual situation, to see whether it's worthwhile. But I can sell this clause instantly for £2.4 million. Now, that can help towards a transfer. It could even be a single player if we get a Wonderkid for cheap. So I'm going to sell that clause. You can see there, we're instantly going to receive that money. When we go to transfers, our transfer budget has now increased. Now, the chances are, if you're a club in the Vanarama National League, that you won't have a Ben White clause to sell, but it's always worth checking. But you might have the equivalent where a player of yours has moved to the Championship. You might be able to get £200,000 from a clause, and that can be massive for your team. It can be an extra player, it might earn you promotion a season earlier and completely change the fortunes of your club. Before we get on to tip number 2, I'd like to let you guys know I do have my own channel linked in the description where we have a Leicester save going on currently. I'd massively appreciate it if you can come over, check out episode 1 or 2, see if you enjoy it. If not, forget it ever existed, but if you could, I really do think you would enjoy the content. We've had people come over from FMSCOUT previously who have said they've really enjoyed it. So thank you to anyone who does do that. But now let's move on to tip number 2, and that is arranging friendlies. Now this is particularly good if you are managing in the lower league, and I'll show you exactly how it works. You can ask your assistant to set up friendlies. In season 1, when you start a save, you'll have friendlies lined up already, but you can add your own and choose the club that you're going to play against in this screen and make some money this way. So if you go over to schedule and then calendar, and you find a day in your pre-season schedule where you think you could have a friendly. So you can see here, we're playing on a Saturday, then a Tuesday. I wouldn't mind, for the sake of fitness, to have a friendly on the Saturday. So what you can do is you can click this date here and arrange a friendly. From here you can choose the match rules, the venue. Most of the time it's going to be home in 90 minutes, and then you can choose the club you want to play against. You won't get every club available to you, but you could choose to maybe have a friendly against Bagshot, which isn't going to make you money, or in most cases if you're a lower league team, it can be really beneficial setting up a friendly with a big club. For example here, let's say Brighton wanted to set up a friendly with Manchester City. You can see instantly it will cost us £286,000 to arrange the friendly, but we would make £433,000 expected revenue from the match. That's going to be over a £100,000 profit, which can be massive if you are a lower league club. The profit margins won't be as big, but also if you're managing a team like Brighton and you do this 5 times over, you might be able to make £1 million and spend it on a better player. Obviously their budget is very high this year, so that million won't mean too much, but it's definitely worth doing, and it's an easy way to make quick money. All you do is hit confirm, create this friendly, and then you'll get a message in a few days if Manchester City will accept the proposal or not. Tip number 3 is all about contract negotiations and the best way to save money there. Now let's imagine in this situation, Robert Sanchez has came along, he's a bit unhappy, he'd like a new deal because he's been playing really well recently. Well, you can save some money when offering people contracts with a very, very simple tip. The first one is when we enter contract negotiations, don't show this message, that's fine, let's go in. It's to change this button here, which a lot of people will ignore, and that's the contract start date. Now, if you've got a player that's demanding a new deal, often you can say, okay, instead of immediately, why don't I offer you a deal at the end of the season and it will kick in then? Now, if you're changing a player's wage from 25 grand to 50 grand, that's going to save you 25 grand between now and the end of the season and still keep the player happy that they're getting a new contract. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it does, and they can only reject it really, so it's not a terrible thing to try. I'm going to mark it as non-negotiable and see if Robert Sanchez would be happy at the end of the season to take a new deal, and you can see he is. Now that might not feel like you're saving much in wages, but I promise you it will add up, and it's a similar case here. So now we've agreed what we're going to do with the contract, we're going to offer him some terms. So let's say this is what we were going to offer Robert Sanchez. So this is what he's asking for: a 76 grand contract, appearance fees, clean sheet bonuses, unused substitute fees. Okay, now a lot of people will just go down and say, right, let's try and negotiate him to 60 and call it a day. But what a lot of people ignore are these bonus clauses that might be worth getting rid of as opposed to lowering the fee. So instead of 76, we'll go down to 70, but I'm going to ask for the appearance fee to be removed from all negotiations. Because what this means is Robert Sanchez, who is our main goalkeeper and will play week in, week out, is every week he plays, he will get an additional £15,000 on top of his normal salary, which over the course of the season, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And instead of taking, say, 65 grand in the wages, I prefer to keep it at 70 grand, but maybe get rid of these clauses. So let's try it. We'll also get rid of the unused substitute fee and the clean sheet bonus. And now I think Robert Sanchez will likely accept this. You can see he's asking for a little bit more. Okay, maybe we can go to that original value. And after a bit of negotiation, we've ended up getting the contract down to 75 grand as opposed to the 76 that he originally wanted, minus any kind of additional fees. So this is what we'll be paying him as a flat fee. Now, Sanchez might not be the best example, and there isn't one size-fits-all solution. You kind of need to look at the individual player's contract and work it out if it's worthwhile. For example, let's say you were given a deal to Jamie Vardy at 37 years old or whatever he will be a year or so into your save. It might be better to have a lower wage but a really high appearance fee if you think you might not use him. That way, if you do use Jamie Vardy, he gets a nice paycheck of say 20 grand, but if not, you're not having to pay too much in his normal salary for an old player who might not contribute anymore. So it's always a good idea when doing these contract negotiations to think about these bonuses and try and save money, because even here with Robert Sanchez, that saves us 15, 16 grand a week, let's say. Now, if you did that for 5 contract negotiations, you might be looking at an additional 60, 50,000 pounds of wages left over. Now that can be used for a whole new player, a whole new sign-in for your club. Now, tip number 4 isn't one that I can show straight away, but you'll be able to do this every single year in your save and make a really significant chunk of money. And that's when at the start of your seasons, usually after you do the code of conduct or whatnot, a couple of weeks in, you'll get asked to give your collective win bonuses for your club. Now, it will say something along the lines of low, medium and high for winning the Premier League or whatever league you're in, and then the European competition you'll have low, medium or high as the reward. And basically this is a reward that's split between the squad once they win a competition. Now, a lot of people will see this screen, just hit confirm and forget about it, but it's always initially set to the medium reward for winning the league. Now with Brighton, they're not going to win the league, and it might be better to get rid of that reward, put the reward to low if they do win the league, and you'll end up coming out with an extra 5 or 6 million pounds in your transfer budget. If you're a Premier League side, if it's lower leagues, you're still going to make a lot of money, and it really is worth considering, because it's meant to be some kind of trade-off that if you take away this reward, yes, you get the money, but the players are less determined to win a league. Now, I can't dive into the exact code of Football Manager and find out how it all works, but for me, it's seemingly never had any kind of adverse effect. I've never seen any negative effect from it. The players still want to win games, the morale can still be more than high, and you can just get an extra £10 million in your budget £5 million to buy a whole new player. Done it on my Leicester save recently and gone from £2 million to 11 just by switching the value of the reward. So it's always worth thinking about this, and in most cases I would say definitely do it. Put your rewards at the lowest end possible. The final tip is almost a way of life to run in Football Manager, which I think is the best way to go about things, and that is buying young to sell high. Now I know that most people will do this anyway, but there's a few things you can add to this that I'll show you now that will make your life a hell of a lot easier. But let's start off with the basics. What do I mean by buying young and selling for profit? Well, it's pretty simple. Instead of spending £10 million on a 31-year-old player, most of the time you're going to be better off investing in a younger player, 21, 23 or under, who will then grow with your club, be a heavy contributor, and then maybe you can sell them for a profit. It is of course situational in terms of what your club needs, but most of the time buying a young player is not a bad decision at all. If I finish a transfer window and I had £3 million left in my transfer budget, a lot of people will just leave the money there and think that's it, my transfers are done. But I would much rather put that £3 million into a young player who in a couple of years might be worth 20, £30 million, and you can 10 times your money, because chances are you're not going to miss that few £1 million from your bank balance that season. You want that transfer budget to be working for you and not just sitting there, but there's a few extra steps you can do. For example, if I finished my transfer window and I had £5 million left, it might be worth setting up a deal for Peterborough's Ronnie Edwards, a 19-year-old centre-back who the scouts have reported back as having some clear potential, because even if we don't use him, we can bring him in, loan him out, and within a couple of years, he'll be worth more. I know this because I tried to sign him in my Leicester save for £3 million. Newcastle got him in season 1. They've just sold him for £25 million in season 2, having never played a game for the club. So these kind of players are definitely worth keeping an eye on. Sometimes though, your scouts won't be bringing back all of these great young players and you don't know who to sign, you don't know who to go for. Now there's something you can do that will help you out, particularly if you're a few years into your save and new gens have started appearing, and that is to search some of the best national teams in the world and have a look in their under 18s, under 21s to find some gems. But instead of looking at your Englands and your Frances, which you can do, but chances are even the England under 19 squad are still going to cost a lot of money, what you can instead do is search up nations who maybe don't have the same finances involved in their football and try and find some bargains. For example, I'm coming over to Uruguay and you could check out their under 19s, under 20s, under 23 squads for some good young players, particularly as new gens start appearing. Those under 19s you will find bargains, particularly with the South American nations of Argentina, Brazil and Uruguay, the European nations that you might not think about like Serbia, Poland, Denmark, Norway, amongst many others. But here you go, I haven't got a big database loaded here, but in Uruguay's under 23s, we've got a few players that my game has decided to load in, some of which we're not going to be able to buy, right? Darwin Núñez's, Palestri's already at Manchester United, Arezo's still 30 million. But instantly, we found this guy, Fabrizio Diaz of Liverpool FC, a club out in Uruguay, who looks pretty good, is available for a couple £1 million and would be a great investment for a team such as Brighton. But the nation I will always vouch for, like I said, particularly when you're a few years into your save, is to check out Spain and their national teams. Because whether they're an established player in La Liga like Messi or Ronaldo were when they used to play for Barca and Real, or you're looking at a young player like Pedri or Gavi, everyone in La Liga or the Spanish divisions has to have a release clause in their contract. Now, most of the time, it's going to be a stupidly high amount, particularly if you've got a player at Barcelona or Real Madrid, but often you can find players with really cheap release clauses, particularly with new gen players and particularly with players that are playing for clubs that maybe aren't the world's best in Spain. I don't know any exact examples here, but it's a trial and error method of scouting and seeing if someone has a cheap release clause. In Spain's under 21s, we have Jeremy Rodriguez here, an 18-year-old left back who's at Southampton, so he won't have a release clause. How about Jose Marcha? He plays for Sporting. But eventually you might find a player like I've done here called Benat Torrientes who plays for Sociedad, a Spanish club. Now, the older the player is, the more likely that the club's caught onto their talent and given them a higher release clause. But if we go to contract details, we can see he has a release clause of £9.5 million. Now, looking at him at 20 years old and his attributes, I wouldn't pay that personally, but this is the trial and error method you need to go through. But often a couple years into your save, if you check out Spain's under 19s, scout them all, there'll be 10 good players, let's say. 4 or 5 of them might have really, really cheap release clauses of £1 million, sometimes even a couple £100,000. Let's say you picked all 5 of them up for £2 million each. You pay £10 million for 5 Spanish youngsters. Chances are in a few years they'll all be worth £10 million each and you make loads of profit. Now that's a very simple way of putting it, but in general it's a great idea to check out the setups in these national teams, and especially Spain, to look for those cheap release clauses that you might be able to activate. So there you go everyone, that's a couple of ways you can make money and save money in FM23. Sell those transfer clauses, lower your collective win bonuses. You can easily make big chunks of money by doing that. You can save money in your contract negotiations, and you can build for the future and build your club's finances by investing that leftover money into young players who you can develop for a profit. Don't let your cash sit there. If the board have given you money to spend and your club is well off financially, as Brighton are here, spend that money and make it work for you. But there you go, that's some quick tips to help you out in your FM saves. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more, comment down below your favourite money making tip, and check out my channel in the description below and our Leicester save. I'd greatly appreciate it if you did, but most of all, have a great day everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.